take a trip in my airship. Come take a sail among the stars. Come have a ride around Venus. Come have a spin around Mars. Show us while we're busy. Show us to see while we school. Come take a trip in my airship and we'll visit the man in the moon.
Hello and welcome to another Airship 27 podcast. This one is number 94, if I remember. Yeah, number 94. And alongside me here is my co-host and pal, Captain Ron Fortier.
Hey, Rob, we're all of us trying to keep warm in this deep freeze that has blanketed the entire country. I mean, have you seen any of those news clips from the Northeast coast?
Oh, aren't you glad you don't live up there anymore?
Yeah, I am. But I got to tell you, I grew up in that general area, and a lot of those places that Valerie and I still travel to every year on vacation, especially along the seacoast. Okay, some of the resorts, some of our best places to go for seafood. I mean, Wells Beach, York Beach, Kennebunk Port, all those places. Just the cold came too fast, too hard, and then came the rain on top of it, and the ground couldn't take it.
Probably that much ice and then this much snow.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so
we got about 5 inches of snow. It melted back down to about maybe a half an inch to an inch, and then last night we had this really light snow come down, and it added another half inch on top of that. Plus all those polar winds coming in. When yesterday morning was negative 13. This is in Missouri. This ain't the North Pole. This is Missouri we're talking about. And talking to some friends in Florida, and they're all going, "It's cold down here," and they're talking 50s, and I'm going, "Yeah, right, that's cold." But for them, it is cold. They're used to 70s, 80s, even this time of year, and man, it's cold down there for them.
Hey, look,
so,
if you want a barometer of how cold this country has been the last few days, all right. I mean, the NFL, all right, canceled games Sunday. All right. Are you kidding me? I mean, I think World War III could happen. They'd still be playing football.
Oh,
but that's how it was.
Well, with Kansas City played, they had, of course, they were smart. They had the Dolphins were in there. So these guys are used to playing in a stadium that gets no colder than 55, 60 degrees, and they're up in Kansas City, Missouri, and they're playing, and the wind chill is negative 35.
Oh, it's just
and they're playing
brutal.
football.
It's just anyways.
No, thank you.
All right. Hey,
I haven't been out of the house in 4 or 5 days, so because it's so cold. I'm not stepping outside.
I hear you. Yeah, not unless I have to. I'm a bloody emergency.
So glad I don't have to do that anymore.
Here we are. This, by the way, is our first podcast of 2024. And so, as ever, we're going to do a recap of those titles we got out last year. But before we get into that, we need a bad joke from you, Chief Engineer.
All right. It'll be short and sweet, but it's a good one. Okay. A married couple were having yet another heated argument of many when the wife got so mad at her husband, she packed his bags, tossed them in the front yard, and told him to get out. As the husband walked out the door, she yelled, "I hope you die a long, slow, painful death." The husband walked over, picked up the bags, turned around and said, "So you want me back?"
Ouch!
Well, he knows how to throw the bar back, doesn't he?
Oh, Lord, spare us! Oh, Yeah. Hey, so let me throw this one at you real quick, and I'll save my regular one for the end of the show. But this, you and I scroll through Facebook every now and then when we pick up these bon mots, what I call them, right? I read one the other day, and this woman writes, she goes, this weather, she goes, my husband's been standing there looking at that window, stock still for the last hour. He keeps that up. I'm gonna have to let him back in the house. All right, we're off in a tooth here. Here we go. All right, hey,
Yes. Hey, yeah, an extra one, folks.
yeah. Hey,
Oh,
last year wasn't as productive as we normally are. We usually hit
yeah.
around 20 to 24, but you know what? The 17 or so that we got out were really good books. We're proud and happy and of all of
Yeah.
them. So we want to give you a little reminder. These guys are still up there on Amazon, on Kindle. If you're looking for something to read while you're shut in with this winter, you might want to give them a shout out. So let's go from the start of the year. I'll kick it off and we'll go back and forth as we
All right.
always do.
All right.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
So we launched 2023 with The Purple Scar, Volume 4. In it, we had stories by Gene Moyers, Felix Cruz, Michael Housel, and Fred Adams Jr. Chuck Bordell provided the interior illustrations, and as ever, Adam Shaw turned in a wonderful cover. One of my favorite B characters from the pulps, the Purple Scar. Just what we've talked about in
So
the past.
weird. He is
Yeah,
so weird.
I love that whole element of horror. All right, so what
Hmm.
did we follow it up with?
Well, number two was Bulldog Drummond number, and you got the number on here, right? It was a four,
Three,
three or four,
three. It was
three,
three.
three.
Right.
And it called Baited Hook. It's by Ian Watson. He's written all of them so far. Bulldog Drummond returns with new tales featuring this modernized classic British pulp hero from the 1920s. Artist Howard Simpson provided all the art, both interior illustrations and a stunning cover. He's done a couple covers for us now, and he just knocks it out of the park every time. It's just
Right. I
stunning
believe
work.
I right. I think that was his first cover for us.
It
And,
was, yes,
right.
yep.
And I mean, the second you and I saw it, I said, hey, anytime Howard wants to do a cover, no question. Okay. Then we dipped into what I call sword and sorcery and fantasy
Right,
land, which is
right.
something we've just started doing over the last couple of years. We've had enough of our fans and readers ask us if we were. And so with quality stuff like this, we had Journey to Stormrest, Altiva Chronicles #1 by Teal James Glenn. This is, again, like I said, the first book in his Altiva series. Chris Nyes provided the stunning interior illustrations, and Rob, yourself, you did the action-packed cover. I mean, if you guys like this other world adventures like Edgar Rice Burroughs was famous for writing and other people,
Hmm.
this is right up your alley. It's really good stuff.
Yep. And then right after that, coming in at number 4, Mark Justice's The Dead Sheriff, Volume 5, A Cold and Lonesome Grave by Philip Pan. I personally did the interior illustrations, and Michael Youngblood did the cover. A chilling thriller in more ways than one, featuring Sasquatch and Wendigo facing off with the dead sheriff.
Oh yeah. That was so much fun. Philip did a
Yeah,
great job.
it was as usual. It creeped me out. What a great story! Especially with the whole Wendigo subplot was just,
Right.
yeah,
It was spot on. I
yeah.
love the character. I love the character created by our dear and late friend Mark Justice, and I'm kind of hoping that as time goes on, we do more of them.
Well,
Okie doke.
yep.
Then
I
number
enjoy
five.
them too. So yeah.
Yeah, number 5, The Silver Pentacle, Volume 2 by Nancy Hansen. Second in her adventure series about the world after an apocalyptic event. Guy Davis, my pal from Colorado Springs, provided all the artwork, interiors, and another great cover. It's the second series for the both of them. Guy signed on to do the entire series, and at last, contact with him, he has the manuscript for Volume 3. So hopefully, we will
Cool.
see that later in the year.
All right. And coming in at number 6, The Lucifer Stone by Bob Madison, if I can speak correctly this morning. It's an old-fashioned pulp adventure. Kevin Paul Shaw Broden provides the interior illustrations, and Adam Shaw, the ever wonderful Adam Shaw, provided the cover for this.
Yeah, then the story behind that cover we have to talk about because it was an odd duck thing. I am a huge fan, and I believe like Rob is, of the old classic illustrators who worked in magazine
Oh,
illustration over
yeah.
the 40s and 50s, right? And in the 30s and 40s, I mean, probably the 30s, the most popular was J.D. Leyendecker, and he did the ads for Arrow shirts and others like that.
Saturday Evening Post covers.
Right.
Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant illustrator. In fact, didn't Norman Rockwell study with him, I believe, if I get my illustration history
They
correct?
worked they worked out of this. They had to think they had the same agent, and so they did work together. Yeah.
Right. So here I was looking for an illustration with a hero type and a spunky girl sidekick, and I see this image online, Leyendecker done, of a young couple in the 20s, right? And she's holding a, I'm trying to think, was a badminton racket,
Yeah.
and he's holding a set of clubs. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
basically, I get a hold of Adam Shaw. I said, "How would you like to riff Leyendecker?" Adam was beside himself. We did the cover. Now she's holding a Colt 45 revolver, and instead of a golf club, this guy's holding a mastodon bone. All right, it was such a perfect fit, and ended up being one of the most beautiful covers we did all year long. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yep.
All right, so after the Lucifer Stone, Lee Houston Jr. came along and gave us number 7, Solitaire, a spy action thriller. Ted Hammond did the cover with Chuck Waddell doing the interior illustrations. Now, this is meant to be a series, and the last I heard, Lee is hard at work on a sequel. It's about a female agent, all right, who goes after corporate crimes. Good stuff.
Yep. Costumed, kind of like a comic book hero or a pulp hero would be with costume. So right after that, coming in at number 8 was Stone Law, Blood Killer's Quarry. You got to say that 5 times fast. Caveman murder mystery. Yeah, just a really interesting concept. Set in the Stone Age, and the mystery. It's by Michael Panush. Earl Geyer did the cover, and if I'm mispronouncing your name, I apologize. Did the cover and the interior illustrations for this really interesting concept of a book. If I remember correctly from the story, the detective himself is Neanderthal, but he's in with Homo sapiens,
Right.
folks that
Yep.
became us. Whereas
Right.
he's a Neanderthal man himself, but he's a brilliant detective back in the Stone Age. Really interesting concept, and I didn't read the book, but as I was assembling on it, I'd see the illustrations, and so I'd read a little passage, and I'm going, wow, this is a
Well, yeah,
really
yeah,
interesting
right.
book.
It's
Really
it take
interesting
yeah,
concept.
it was, and you give Michael credit for that. It's the kind of stuff that he does. He always comes up with stuff out of left field
Yeah.
that originality just exudes from him as a writer. And I want to commend you because when we were assembling the book, and Earl Geyer did some amazing interior illustrations. So I was like, giving some thought, what's the cover going to be? And he did one illustration that you and I both thought
Yeah.
pretty much summed up that theme and what the book was about. And you went and colored it for us and got
Right.
it all set to be the cover. And it's one of the most striking covers we have. So, hey, kudos to you, my friend, for making that happen as well.
It was fun to do, and and like you, I thought that it really kind of encapsulated the whole story in that one shot that we turned into the cover. And it had just the right amount of room for the logo at the top. I mean, it kind of screamed to be the cover. It really
Yep.
did.
Yep. Okay,
So
so then
next,
all right, so we leave the Stone Age and we head out west to number 9, After Sunset. Now, this is a terrific Western by a novel by Jonathan Casey. Sam Salas provided the interior illustrations, and Shannon Hall a traditional Western cover, very mindful of gun smoke and those kind of TV
yeah,
shows. But it's a story of a retired lawman who's back east now, well into his 80s, and he looks back on his life and reminisces about being the sheriff in this small Western town. Excellent, excellent novel.
Okay, coming in at number 10 is Mystery Men and Women, Volume 9. This one features stories by Jamie Ramos, Mark Allen Van, Jonathan Sweet, and Jarrett Mazza. Yours truly did the cover featuring Mark Allen Van's Kill Devil character, as well as and I did all the interior illustrations as well. So this one's a Rob Davis production for Airship 27.
And you know what? Yeah, let me add, I do want to add this because right now, I mean, this is a best-selling series for us. Fans absolutely love this series.
Yeah,
You've done all the interior illustrations for every single volume. We got more in the queue waiting to come, but we will talk more about the Windy City Con at the end of the show. All right, but Pulp Factory Award nominations are happening now, even as we make this recording.
Right.
And I have been promoting this particular volume in the best anthology category. And and several of our colleagues have noted your cover for it, which I think totally deserves a nomination.
Yeah, very pulpy. Pulp inspired. I took elements from a couple of different pulp covers and put them together to create this one.
And this was the one where one of the readers actually made little figures of that cover, which I still love that. I look at that picture. It's just insane. But anyways, hey, if you're a member of the Pulp Factory out there listening to this show, please go out and nominate, and please consider Mystery Men in Volume 9.
I have not yet put together my nominations. I need to do that in the next few days here. We have till what? February.
It's early this year. It's only early this year because the show is going to be early. And Jay Sweet, who's part of the committee and organizes all this, reminded us that we have to get this done a few weeks earlier than we normally do. Okay. Number 11, The Challenger Chronicles, Volume 1. Arthur Conan Doyle's scientist adventure, Professor George Challenger, in news stories by Gordon Dmowski, Barbara Duran, Michael Panush, and Samantha Lienhardt. Clayton Hinkle provided both the interiors and his first time ever cover. I'm really happy. This took a couple years to get off the ground. Gordon Dmowski, our good friend and writer, brought it to us a couple years ago, suggesting Challenger is popular, just like Holmes is. But the case was like, who can we get to do the illustrations? As always, which is always our challenge. Which is now turning around, and again, something we'll talk about at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
But anyways, eventually Clayton Hinkle freed himself. He'd finished a graphic novel he'd been working on for about a year, and finally gave me a yell out and said, "Hey, I'm ready for that Challenger book." Well, he did such a great job with the interiors. When he brought up doing the cover, we said, "Go for it."
Yeah.
And now he's committed to doing Volume 2 and sticking with the series. So thanks a lot, Clayton. That means a lot to all of us.
Yeah, and while we're talking about Clayton, what always strikes me about this is he's one of those guys that when he first started with us, he was very reluctant and hesitant, and he was not real confident in his work. But he came in. He has a really distinctive style. He's honed that. He's got it to the point where he's just impressive in how quickly he grew and became a really good illustrator and a really good artist.
Well,
so I'm going to kudos to him.
Yeah. You were totally supportive, and I haven't forgotten that either. And what you're talking about was there was, I think, in most artists starting up, there was a little lack of confidence, right? If his stuff was worthy of public, that kind of stuff that all creators go through. But you were right there instantly, okay? Giving him ideas, new ways to do compositions or whatever, which he took to heart, all right? And just got better and better. I've lost track of how many. Clayton has now become one of Airship 27's most relied upon artists. And he delivers in a pinch, and his artwork grows and grows. And
it's very pulpy feeling. It's got that old pulp feeling to it. And it's just, I every time I get a new illustration in by him, I go, wow. It's hard to realize this is the same guy that was so reluctant to even do anything back in the day, and now he's just knocking it out of the park. So as you said, when he offered to do the cover too, I'm going, hey, if you can get anywhere close to doing what you're doing with the interiors, you're going to knock it out of the park again. And he did. I think he gave us some some of the illustrations as he was progressing with it, and every time he'd come back with it, it would improve just a little bit more. He just kept going. So it was, he's one of those folks I'm going, wow, he's really come a long way from when he started it, but he's very confident now. But he's really got it going now. So,
all right.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. So number 12, Mars McCoy Space Ranger Volume 3. It features stories by John Bear Ross, Wayne Carey, Robert J. Mendenhall, and Russ Anderson. Michael Youngblood provided the cover, and artist Daniele Spazzazi. I hope I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. He did the interior illustrations. So Daniele Spazzazi. I'm guessing that's how it's pronounced.
Well, that's the way I would say it. But this is another classic character. I say classic. It's a character we invented years ago when we first launched Airship 27. Our tip of the hat to Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers and Star Trek, all that kind of stuff. And we got a whole bunch of, as I remember the days, writers who helped us actually put a Bible together. And people like Bill Spangler, Van Plexico was on board, and everything else, that we created a Bible. And it's been a long time. We've done volumes 1 and 2 years ago. So it was really happy to see Mars McCoy and the Space Rangers back in action again.
Yeah. And what was next? It's your turn.
Yeah, number 13, fitting number. The Return of the Crimson Howl. All right, by newcomers Paul Landry and Jason Clark. Sam Salas provides the interior illustrations, and Ted Hammond, once again, as always, delivers a fantastic cover. Now, this is something that's become very popular, I think, in the last decade, and it's a superhero novel. Okay, best way to put it. All right, but it's dark, adult themes. It's a post-World War II setting where the superheroes who fought against the Germans and for America during World War II have been disbanded. And the government has become leery. Chris Claremont used to do this theme in the X-Men comics in Marvel. That eventually, again, and it's a theme from The Watchmen. You get a group of people who are super powered, and it's okay if they're on your side, but what happens if they turn against you? And so the theme of this is it's years after World War II, and the government has pretty much legally said, no more superheroes, go back to your private lives. All well and good until some of these heroes start being mysteriously murdered. 2 federal agents are sent on a task force to find one of them, known as the Crimson Howl, to help them in the investigation to find out who's killing these old superheroes. Again, Landry and Clark's first ever novel. They knocked it out of the ballpark. We had a ball with this, and kudos to them for promotion, because this first issue, they got people on board. They're working on a sequel. I was just talking to Paul the other day, and the sequel's in the works. So again, it's always it's a joy for me and Rob to welcome new creators to the fold.
Always fun. Okay, coming in number 14, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective Volume 19. It features stories by Ray Lovato, John Casey, and I.A. Watson. Yours truly drew the interior illustrations, and Howard Simpson painted the cover, as we noted earlier from Bulldog Drummond. He's now doing covers for us, which is he's got a very painterly style, and it's very reminiscent of the pulps. And it seemed like he struggled with this a little bit. He wanted to give us his best work, so he struggled a little bit with it, back and forth with us, and finally delivered a knockout punch with this one. It's a great cover.
I absolutely love this cover. And like you said, after what he had done on Bulldog Drummond earlier in the year, it was a no-brainer when he said, hey, can I do the next Sherlock Holmes? And I said, go for it. And like you said, he kept us waiting because he was tweaking it. But again, hey, he wanted to give us the best, and that's exactly what he did. It's a beautiful cover.
He gave it, like I said, a knockout punch, definitely. Yep.
Right.
So
okay. Then we had number 15, again, bringing back a classic pulp character, The Phantom Detective, Volume 2, features stories by Carson Demons, Gene Moyes, Fred Adams Jr., and Michael Housel. Kevin Paul Shaw Broden, one of our regulars, did the interior illustrations, and Adam Shaw did the cover, riffing on all those classic Phantom Detective covers where you see that giant head behind the action in the foreground. All right. Only in talking with Adam about the cover, we don't put him in that silly top hat.
Well, what mysterious guy of the night is going to be walking around with a top hat on? As we've talked about before, the whole reason for that was to get it to stand out on the stands. The character inside the book wears a fedora.
Yeah.
Well, everybody wears a fedora in the pulp world. So
Right.
to get him to stand out, he wears a domino mask and a top hat. So okay.
Anyways, and so
It
yeah,
made him
again,
stand out.
but Adam, yeah, and then Adam gives you this cover that's totally pulp. It's totally
Mhm.
with
Oh
the
yeah.
series. I'm right now in the process doing the accounting for our first quarter royalty sales, and I'm very happy to see this particular title is selling really well with our fans. And I've already gotten interest with some of our writers that want to write more Phantom Detective stories. So we'll see what happens. All right, so here we go. Number 16, Sherlock
That's
Holmes.
yeah, that's mine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You just
Oh,
did Phantom Detective, didn't you?
I did.
Okay, so
Hey, go get him, buddy.
no, number 16. Sorry to butt in.
No.
Sherlock Holmes Mysteries, Volume 3, a Kindle only title. We do these occasionally. This one's by I.A. Watson. It reprints a half dozen tales from Ian from Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, plus one new story from forthcoming Volume 20 coming this year cover by yours truly. I took one of as I do with these Kindle onlys, I took an interior illustration from the group and colored it, and then made it the cover for this Kindle only book. We're planning to do more of these kinds of books, where say one of our anthologies has one writer who's written at least four stories, and they're illustrated by the same person. We will collect them into a Kindle version, and if we can, add another story that has not yet been published but will be soon, to round out the collection. So we have a couple of those coming this year that we'll be talking about in future podcasts. But that's what this is. It's just a way to help monetize this and collect a certain writer's stories in one place in an inexpensive package, because they're only $4.99. I think this one ended up, because it had six stories in it. I raised the price a little bit. It's $5.99, but normally they're about $4.99 with four or five at the most stories in it.
Yeah.
So it's a way to give our fans a possibility of getting all these stories in one place for a relatively inexpensive package.
And I'd like to believe that Ian does have a following, especially
Yeah,
for his Sherlock Holmes work. It's obvious because, I mean, the sales reflect that all the time. We've done two other Kindle onlys with him and his Sherlock Holmes stuff, and they sell. They sell like hotcakes.
They're still selling. Yeah,
and
I
so's this
noticed that
particular volume.
I pull all the information off of Amazon to give to Rhonda to write the checks out with, and it's always interesting to see what sells. And this last time, and we're jumping into the middle of it here, but this last time I did it, Bass Reeves is right up there for obvious reasons. Plus, and it's the first issue. Number one is the one that sold really big this time. Now all of them sold, and then these Kindle only versions, because we've got a couple of those that are up there, and those are still selling. Not huge numbers, but they sell at a certain level every quarter. There's a certain amount of these that sell. So it's amazing to see what's out there and what our fans are glomming onto and getting. So, But anyway, I'll let you move on to number 17, the last one we put out this year.
The last title for 2023, Buck Jones in the 21st Century by Daryl Purcell. Purcell not only delivered a great story about federal agents somehow or other working with the government on a secret time machine project, eventually tested by going back to the big Copacabana fire in Boston in the early 40s, which was a horrific event in the city's history. The fire caught, the doors in those days opened in instead of out. And so when the crowds pushed against the door to try to get it open, the mob was there. Smoke eventually, got most of the people, including the classic film Western actor Buck Jones, who lost his life. And so in Purcell's imagining, these federal agents with this time machine are able to go back to the fire and basically grab Jones and leave some kind of an organic dummy in his place and come back to the 1970s. Okay. All right. This is basically testing the machine out, but the guy they bring back is Buck Jones. All right. This classic American Western hero. Well, he no sooner gets back when you come to find out that there's a terrorist cell operating in the deserts of Arizona. And the feds are off to it, but Jones goes, "Hey, wait a minute. I'm always good at chasing bad guys. I'm going with you." So Purcell has his own publishing imprint. He's been doing this for years. He loves all these classic Western cowboy heroes and whatever. And as a great writer, we've become good friends with both Vietnam veterans. And I wanted to bring him into Airship 27. He sent me a few manuscripts last year. This is the first one we got out, and he was decent enough to come and do the cover for us on top of everything else. So we're really excited. We've got a couple more of his books in the wings, and hopefully you'll see at least one, maybe two of them before the end of the year. And that was our bang-up wrap-up for 2023.
Wrapped up.
There we go. Done. Woo.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I mean, it seemed to me like we had this real up and down this last year. I mean, if you look at the podcasts that we released last year, there were times where there were a couple of months between podcasts, and we do podcasts usually when we've had at least a couple of books come out. So that tells you something right there. Things came in a little slowly last year, and that's why we normally get about an average of 2 books a month out. And last year, obviously, we only did 17. That's nowhere near 2 books a month. But they come out when they come out. When we get all the pieces in, or we get an art team to work on it, which you said we were going to talk about, is that we're getting more art teams to work with us, which is a really good development for 2024.
Right. Towards the end of last year, I want to say, somewhere around November, a couple of writers came to me with names, artist names, all right? Mm-hmm. And I think there were like a half a dozen of them, okay, over a period of a couple of weeks. So I started following up. I always do. If you bring me a link and say, hey, this guy might be interested, I'm on the hunt. And of those half dozen, much to my surprise, 4 of them turned out to be, willing and agreeing to work with us for the peanuts we offer, but excited about the possibilities of illustrations, of doing, working with pulp writers and whatever. And so they jumped on board. And I have to tell you, loyal airmen are going to see the benefits of all this, because all of a sudden we have got a lot of new books that were, I say new old books, they were stuck in the logjam, moving forward at a really, really good clip. Some of these artists are professionals, semi-retired, who wanted to get back into it, and that's obvious when you see their artwork. Mm-hmm. Others are newbies, much like where Clayton Hinkle was years ago, all right? And Rob's working with them, dealing with ideas of light and shadow, composition, whatever. But they're delivering, and that's the big thing, all right? So we're gonna get back into that, because, hey, we already released book number 1 for 2024. Rob, what was that?
Okay, Jezebel Johnston, number 9, from this series by Nancy Hansen. And then the subtitle of this book is Captain Johnston. Who's this 15-year-old girl becomes a pirate and now she's a pirate captain. In this entry of Nancy's Pirate Queen saga, Jezebel finally captains her own ship and crew, and action ensues as always. Yours truly provided all the interior illustrations, and Ted Hammond came in again and produced another beautiful cover. This book was dedicated to Ted Hammond's daughter, Stephanie, who sadly passed away last year. And I believe that was you came up with that idea and then Nancy signed on to have us dedicate this book to Stephanie. We were both saddened to hear about her passing last year. A beautiful young lady, and taken from us way too soon.
Yep. So I mean, what had happened was, after Nancy turned in the book and you were almost done the illustrations, right? I'm again, okay, so what are we gonna do for a cover? And so, as I often do a lot of times with series, I went into my folder to look at the past covers we've done for the previous eight entries. And jumping out at me was Ted. Ted had done the cover for volume number 3.
Yes.
And it's her standing on a beach with a pirate ship behind her in the bay. And I'd always loved his interpretation, his visualization of Jezebel. And so I'm thinking to myself, and I'm going, well, what if we bring Ted back and do that girl, that Jezebel? So I got a hold of him, and Ted's never once said no. Now, in the interim, we learned about his daughter passing, all right, and the tragedy of that. He eventually delivers this cover, and he's got her standing by the rail of the ship, looking very pensive. All right. And she's stunning. She's absolutely beautiful. It's that cover from volume 3, only now as a close-up. All right. It's one of the most beautiful pieces he's ever done. Nancy told me when she saw it on her computer screen, she just sat there for like 5 to 10 minutes just staring at it. All right.
Yeah.
And I let Ted know. He was touched by that. So now we put the whole thing together as you do assemble it. We're getting into the final stages of proofreading. And of course it was like, what are we doing here? The man just lost his daughter. I immediately got a hold of you and Nancy and said, let's dedicate the book to Stephanie. All right. It's the least we can do to show Ted that, we're sympathizing. We can't even imagine the pain he's going through, but we want to do this for him and his daughter. And so Nancy said, if Ted's okay with it, I have no problems with this at all. I got a hold of Ted. And Ted was very, very sweet and succinct, got back and said, thanks, guys. I appreciate this. Thank you. So it's dedicated to Stephanie Hammond, and we hope you'll check it out. It's a great way to launch 2024. She's got a following with this series. We both know it. Ever since we announced this last week, I've been seeing people writing, going, it's out finally. And one guy wrote and said, oh, my wife can't wait to get her hands on this and everything else. So way to go, Nancy. Keep Jezebel Johnson coming our way. All right.
Yeah, she said that she's worked on the next story a little bit. So it'll be coming.
All right. Yep. Okay. So then what's coming next?
Oh, yeah. 2 titles are right now neck and neck production wise. The new Domino Lady anthology with 4 brand new stories by Gene Moyers, Gene Popa, I'm thinking it's Popa or not Papa, George Takis, and Fred Adams Jr. Warren Montgomery provides all the art, from the interior illustrations to the cover. And Strong Adventures, a new collection of action adventures by Tyler Alfhammer, featuring his new hero Harvey Strong. Ron Hill, a pro artist new to Airship 27, and he's one of those guys we were talking about, provides all the art. Really good stuff. Both of these, I'm in the process of getting in the writer critiques, the writer's examination corrections. Thank you. Thanks for the correction. I'm starting to get those in now. I got another one last night that I have not yet done the corrections on yet. So I've gotten 2 of them in so far. And because I got Gene sent me his, and George Takis sent me his. So I'm waiting on Fred and Gene Moyers to get me theirs. And these are popping in really fast. So it may be just a couple more days before I can start putting this one together and put it out there. But yeah, and then the Strong Adventures, it's coming along as well.
Yeah, so I mean, those are right up there. We're going to jump ahead and look at some of the other stuff, but also not too far behind him. Just this morning, Rob, British artist Brian Gallagher sent me the pencil rubs for illustration number 9 of Frank Schindler's new novel. All right, the one with the son of D'Artagnan, Count Rochefort.
Oh yeah,
versus the
Rochefort,
satanic
however it's
or
pronounced.
the
Yeah, yeah,
7
yeah.
cult sins or whatever. It's a weird time, but it's sword and sorcery in the Musketeer era, and Brian's done a great job with the illustrations. So once he wraps up illustration number 9, it's basically go find a cover, and we're off to the races with another book. So they are coming in.
They're starting to come in a lot faster than they did last year. I think, and a lot of it has to do with the fact these new artists that we've gotten in. Thank you for those writers who found those guys for us and sent them our way, because that is gonna get us to where we're putting out books on a little bit more regular basis, at least for the first part of the year. But we have a special thing coming up, and that's what we're going to talk about next.
All right, so what to look forward to? As always, we've got quite a few exciting new titles in the works for 2024, chief of which is, oh boy, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective Volume 20. We've been ranting and raving about this for a few months now, all right? There's several more volumes of Mystery Men and Women, a new pulp mythology in the works. At the same time, the second volume of The Adventures of Radio Reader. It is finished. It's done. All right.
Almost finished. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got the stories. I've read them. I'm already collecting stories over Volume 3, Rob. But the kicker is, Volume 2 has been collected, read, and edited. It's going to be a case of now giving you some breathing room for your next projects. All right, which we'll talk a little bit about in a second. The once you get on it, I'm hoping to go back to Ted Hammond for a second Radio Reader cover if he's available. Okay. And then, considering the real success of Paramount TV's Bass Reeves miniseries that just finished its stellar first season, you can expect another volume of our best-selling Bass Reeves Frontier Lawman series. So we've got tons of good stuff, Loyal Airmen, and as ever, we hope you'll join us for the ride.
Yep.
There you go. Hey, I mean, the Bass Reeves, we had kept our fingers crossed when that premiered that it would have a marketing effect on the books that we do. And hallelujah, that happened. That really happened. Okay.
Yeah, I was surprised to see how well Bass Reeves Volume 1 popped up on this last accounting that I did. I mean, all of them sold, but the number 1 is the one that popped to the surface, and that tells me that's new readers coming to this series. They probably went to Amazon, did a Google search on what was available on Bass Reeves,
right,
and saw our anthology, which is that's the whole idea. But here's the interesting thing: we were one of the first ones to do this sort of thing, to do the stories of Bass Reeves. We saw the potential in him years ago when you first brought me the true tale of Bass Reeves. I'd go, and posited that we might do an anthology series of fictionalized stories around this guy. Said, oh yeah, let's do this, because this guy deserves more recognition, and finally he's getting it. So, and we're kind of reaping some of the benefits of having done this, because this is called guerrilla marketing, where someone else that is marketing their movie or whatever, and we're benefiting because our character is the same character as what they're doing in their TV show. So what little I've seen of the show, I don't have access to whatever streaming. I think it was a Paramount Plus,
Paramount.
or who?
Yep.
Paramount Plus is doing it. I don't have Paramount Plus, but I have seen snippets of it, like on YouTube and elsewhere. And OMG, this is it's an incredible series. I think the first episode is on YouTube in full, and I watched like the first 5-10 minutes of it. Wow. It's excellent.
Yeah.
If you're not watching
Overall,
it and have access, watch it. It's great stuff. It looks great.
I enjoyed it tremendously. The
Hmm.
cast was phenomenal. The writing was spot on.
Yeah.
And overall, I mean, look, I mentioned this in my Friday blog the week after the series ended. We could all sit and nitpick. Okay. I mean, all right. I mean, there were inconsistencies, but when you deal with history, sadly, okay, you can get certain facts, but other things weren't recorded. Other things weren't there on paper, especially for Black Americans in this country
Yeah.
after World War II.
Yeah.
All right. So there are different versions of Bass's origin. All right. Who's to say which is the one that's the most legitimate or accurate? We'll never know. That's lost to history. But the one
Yeah.
they use
Anybody that was there and knew it they're long
is
gone.
long
They've
gone.
long passed away.
Right.
It's the only evidence out there is probably in some of the paperwork involved in some of what Bass Reeves did as a marshal back in the day, and
Right.
that's going to be
And
an
that's
incomplete
the
record,
crux. And that's the
especially
crux.
since he was illiterate.
Right.
Bass could not
So
read or write, so he didn't write anything down. It
right.
would have to be other people writing stuff down
My my
about him. So
my concern was always the essence of the character, the man, who he was, and to me that was a bullseye. Okay, the
yeah,
young actor who portrayed him was magnificent. Okay, there is a depth to his portrayal that shows what a complex man this was. All right, who out of out of bondage, out of slavery, found himself later with a passion for justice. All right. I mean, it's just
yeah,
it's a remarkable story. Hopefully, Paramount's not going to waste too much time getting it on DVD, so people like yourselves and others can get a collection
yeah,
and
yeah.
get. I may even pick it up myself, Rob, and watch it all over again whenever I want to. Okay. Hey, look. Um, I, this is usually the part of the show we go, what's happening next? One of the things I want to talk about before we do separate things is Windy City's coming up. Yes, we talked about this. Yes,
Yeah,
and
the convention season is kicking into high gear. And this year, for me especially, is stuff's happening as early as like the first week or two in March. So, yeah, that's only like it's less than well, a month and a half away. So, yeah, I've got a show that I'm doing in Omaha in March, the first weekend in March, and then that following weekend is Planet Comic Con in Kansas City, which is the biggest show I go to every year, and so that's coming up. And then there's a little gap where we wait till Windy City comes up. So
see now
it's all starting early this year.
yeah, we're in the same ballpark. I mean, I'm not doing anything prior to Windy City, but Windy City happens one weekend. We fly home that following Monday morning, and that very next Friday is Todd Jones's Wicked West Comic
Yeah.
Expo
So
here
there
in
you go.
Loveland, which I go to all the time.
You've got them back to back too, just
As
like I do.
yeah,
One right
so
back against the other.
so
Yeah.
we're off and running. But I always love to promote Windy City. It's the show, the pulp show for me and Rob and Airship 27. So I hope you will Google its dates, check it out. If you're anywhere in the Chicago Lombard area, please stop by and see us. As ever, aside from all the great vendors and the stuff that you can get there, the pulp treasures, the new pulp people, as ever, we're going to have the Pulp Factory Award celebration Friday night,
Friday night.
and
Yep.
Sunday during the day they devote one of their halls to what they call New Pulp Sunday, and our dear friend and fellow writer Andy Fix and I have already talked, and Andy is going to start putting together two panels, hour-long
Yep.
panels, one which
Yay.
will the one which the topic will be AI. So that's going to prove to be very interesting.
Yeah, that could be very interesting because
Right.
yeah,
So
there's some definitely some controversy about that's shaking out in the creative world, and it's shaking up the creative world. Uh, but personally, and my idea is this is just another tool, and it depends. And it's like as with any other tool, if it can be a device to do good things with, or it can be a device to do bad things. So, and then that depends on the person wielding it, whether it's going to be a good device or a bad device. So let's hope more people using it for good reasons and good outcomes use it.
All right.
But yeah, that'd be interesting to hear that conversation. Although probably you and or I will be stuck at the table while they're doing that.
We could swap. We could swap off. I
Yeah.
left it to Andy to pick the topic for the second panel, but eventually he will have a notice up on the Pulp Factory page on Facebook looking for people to volunteer to sit on those panels.
Right.
Fred Adams had already who initially mentioned AI to me as far as a discussion for panels is probably going to sit on that panel for sure, and whoever else you know, I have to tell you this too. We are now at 498 members of the Pulp Factory. Are you two away from 500? Holy! Let's hope they go out and vote. Okay. I mean, let's hope. And part of why we do this. Okay. You know what?
That's the thing about. Yeah, there's not enough people, I don't think, nominating from the Pulp Factory group. We get a small number of the total number actually. So having more members means that percentage is still going to be it's going to be a small percentage, but it'll be more people. If we can encourage any and everyone is the least bit interested in promoting some of the books and things that they've read this year. Get on. If you're a Pulp Factory member, get on there, nominate some stuff. We would like the most diverse nominations we have ever had. It's gotten much better over the years. More and more, and there are more and more publishers out there and self-publishers. So there's more stuff to be nominated. So if you have a favorite from this last year, even if it's only one category.
Right. That's
nominated that one category. It's people go, well, I don't have anything for these other categories. Don't worry about it. Just put the one that you know stuff about. Right. And let the other ones go. Someone else will nominate in those. So just get in there and nominate whatever.
Right. I mean, the awards are twofold objectives. Okay. One is basically to get attention to new pulp and how vibrant it is, how active it is, how, we've got real, and the other is to acknowledge the writers and artists who make it work, all right, who produce some stellar work every year, all right. So, please check it out. And look, if you're not a member of the Pulp Factory board, but you are a bona fide pulp fan, enthusiast, you don't have to be a creator, but if you are a bona fide pulp fan, if you like pulps, all right, old pulps, new pulps, or whatever, go to the Facebook page, the Pulp Factory page, and fill out an application. There's 3 questions to answer. Okay.
Yeah.
Basically,
and they're not hard. If you're a true fan of pulp, they aren't hard questions.
No. Who's your favorite writer? Boom. Okay. Why do you like pulp? And the third easiest one, do you agree to abide by the rules of the group, the page? That's it. Say yes to those 3, and I'll welcome you on board, and you can have a good time. These are some really smart, funny, and creative people. So there you go. All right. Okay, buddy, is there anything else you want to cover?
I didn't really give this much thought because you kind of popped this on me at the last minute on a couple of days ago. So I haven't really given much thought to anything else at the moment. We've covered some stuff that I did think about, like especially Windy City. So not this time, maybe next month. The way we're coming out with books, we'll have a couple more to talk about probably in the next 3 or 4 weeks. So we'll have something else.
We could spin on the comic stuff we're doing, both of us.
Oh,
easily. But let's save that. Let's save that for the next podcast because we got some cool stuff coming.
You're working on it. How many projects have you got going? Comic book projects have you got going now? I mean, I mean, to tease this a little bit.
Yeah, actively 8.
Yeah.
8.
Well, that's a writer coming at it. If I had 8 going, I'd be killing myself.
Yeah.
I've got 2 or 3 projects that I'm working on at the moment. 2 of them I'm bouncing back and forth on. Well, again, we'll talk about those more next time. So,
all right,
because we're up to we're closing in on an hour, as we usually do when we do this countdown. But we'll talk about that more next time. Yeah.
Are you ready for Ron?
No, I'm not. Okay, go ahead. Let's hear it. Oh,
all right. Old
All right.
old Mr. Johnson, all right, 87 years and counting, goes to see his family doctor. Family doctor says, "What's the matter, Mr. Johnson?" He goes, "My left leg is killing me. There's so much pain." Oh, the young doctor says, "Well, let's run a series of tests." So they set up a series of tests, x-rays and whatever. This goes on for a couple days. Mr. Johnson comes back and doctor's looking at the x-rays and the results, and he goes, he says, "I don't know a better way to say this, Mr. Johnson, but he says it's just old age." Mr. Johnson looks at him and goes, "What? What kind of a quack are you?" He said, "Excuse me?" He said, "Yeah, you're silly. You're full of it." Excuse me, Mr. John. I didn't expect you to get so excited." He said, "Excited?" He says, "My right leg's perfectly fine, and it's the same age." Gotcha. Gotcha. Old age. A little topical from my perspective, you know.
Oh, yes, you're and mine. I'm not that far behind you. Oh my goodness.
It's the same age.
And that's real too, because that whole thing about aches and pains and stuff. When you're young, you go, "What's wrong with those old people?" It's no big deal. And then you get old, and you go, "Oh, I'm still 18 in here, and this body is rebelling from me. It's telling me, oh, you've done enough. Sit down."
All the time.
And it can
all
be
the
just
time.
one side. That guy,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
it
Oh
can't
yeah.
just be one
Oh
side.
yeah. Oh
Sure.
yeah. Oh yeah.
But the thing is, you cure that one, and the other one goes. So, yeah.
All right.
All
Hey,
right. Well,
that's it.
folks. Here's another hour you'll never get back.
Take on. Take on. Okay, buddy,
So,
go ahead and sign us out.
all right. This is Chief Engineer Rob Davis signing off.
And as ever, Captain Ron has the fun of saying, down.
Down ship.